getting Australians to eat more seafood, really. And Australian seafood is really the key for us, because I think the discerning market in Australia does recognise the quality, but it's been a long time coming just to get to this position.
This is Fishtales, a seafood podcast. I'm John Susman. The southern rock lobster, Jasus edwardsii, also called red rock lobster or spiny rock lobster, is a species of spiny lobster found throughout the coastal waters of southern Australia and New Zealand. Internationally, southern rock lobsters represent a narrow minority of world lobster production at around 6%, and therefore are a rare and highly valuable crustacean. Rock lobsters resemble common lobsters found in Europe or North America, but have a spiny shell and lack the large characteristic pincers on the first pair of walking legs. Mature southern rock lobster can weigh from 800 grams up to 10 kilos, although the most valuable are considered the ones below 2 kilos. Boasting a sweet, delicate, firm white flesh with a rich sea spray flavour and a generous meat-to-shell ratio, almost double that of other lobster species, Australian southern rock lobster is one of the world's most indulgent food experiences. The fishery is underpinned by stringent catching and handling regulations to ensure the lobsters arrive at their destination in peak condition. A strict catch quota policy ensures undersized lobsters are returned to the ocean, while a system of limited licences, boats and pot numbers helps avoid overfishing. Trade in live exports of rock lobster exploded in the early 1980s as the lobsters were discovered by discerning diners in China and Hong Kong, and accounted for the majority of shipments out of Australia up until the COVID period. Since then, the industry has had to pivot to new markets, new products and new ideas. Andrew Ferguson is a career South Australian lobsterman who typifies the creativity, professionalism and innovation of this exciting fishery.
Yeah, it all started for me leaving school. I'd always been keen on fishing. My father was a fisherman. My school holidays up until I decided to go and do it permanently as a deckhand on a cray boat out of Cape Jaffa. We'd work in the Christmas holidays and whatnot, but I started in 75, left school and went fishing with Dad and sort of fished for 5 years with Dad and decided to buy a fishing boat on my own in 1980, and sort of my career, I guess, in fishing started then. Yeah, Dad was fishing out of Cape Jaffa, Kingston, Cape Jaffa, the lobster port. There was 30 boats fishing, or 33, I think, at that time out of Cape Jaffa, a little port between Robe and Kingston. I spent a lot of my fishing career out of Cape Jaffa, actually, before moving, I suppose, in 1988, 89, we moved up into the northern zone off Kangaroo Island, Victor Harbour, actually. We fished out of there for a number of years, 10 years. Fished a lot of the South Australian lobster waters. Going through a period of technology changes with new technology coming in, like satellite navigation and then GPS, colour sounders, and finding new ground. It was really interesting times, John. Those days, the means of navigation were really reliant on the sounder, your sumlog, and your compass. So it meant steering for long distance, and hopefully you weren't off course. And then getting out the binoculars, and when you got there, you were looking for a flag in your first lot of pots, and it wasn't always easy. If there was a bit of wind or a bit of tide or something like that, out of the southeast or Cape Jaffa in those days, the sand hills are low and there's not many radar marks, no radar marks really. So you're just reliant on that. 1983, we built a new boat, a new aluminium boat out of Western Australia, and it was a fast boat. It could cruise at 20 knots, which was something unusual in those days. And we put on new technology. It wasn't GPS, it was transit sat nav, but you had to dead reckon for a period of time in between satellites, and the accuracy of that came important, the speed of the boat and the compass and all those sort of things. But that meant we could explore ground outside of 30 or 40 miles where no one had sort of been, and we did quite well in those grounds, and being able to fish it regularly and go back to all these spots was really good. I remember leaving the west or 30 miles off Cape Jaffa and heading west with a load of pots on one day. I just headed with steam to about 5 o'clock, and I started getting worried I couldn't run over any bottom, and we were out about 70 or 80 miles. And suddenly a piece of bottom popped up, and I threw all the pots off, and then couldn't find any more bottom. Stayed the night there on the gear, pulled the pots in the morning, the 30 pots and this little bit of bottom that really would have taken only 10 or 15 pots. But the pots that landed on the bottom were all full, and I think we ended up with about 200 kilos out of the 30 pots we took. And but at the same time, a new boat and the rest of it, we could hear a clang on the bottom of the boat, and every time we turned the rudder, the boat would make a hell of a shudder and a noise. Anyway, I jumped over the side and I saw the skeg bearing was all broken and come away from the bottom of the hull, and I gingerly steamed it back to Robe to go up in the slip, and we welded it up. And on the way back into Robe, we ran over this piece of bottom, like a big hill inside of where we were, and that was the start of some really good fishing. There was a lot of ground there, and we fished there for about 2 or 3 years on our own and did quite well until, someone else found us out there. But that was a bit of a story, really my life of fishing. I enjoyed getting out and about and trying to be away from everyone else and trying to find new pieces of bottom. But, technology catches up, and later on in 1990, GPS came in, and sort of everyone then became a better fisherman because they could find where they were, or they found their little spots, and that sort of changed the whole fishery, really. That's probably the biggest change in the fishery that I can think of that advanced everyone to fishing more of the grounds and continually going back to where they previously fished.
The drive to catch more lobsters more efficiently and more consistently is a hallmark of Andrew Ferguson's approach to not merely fishing, but also to his business.
Oh, look, it was a challenge to start off with. I remember having not that flash of catches really, and really being able to sort of knuckle down and understand how to put it all together. It took probably a month or so to try to find my way, but once you found your way and you knew what you're looking for, because it was pretty intensive. We were getting in late at night and things like that. But once it's a long time ago now. That's sort of 45 years ago. It was a bit of a stress because I was only 21, I think it was. Really, it was rewarding though when we eventually worked it out and did quite well. And then continue to do well for a while. But I look at there's nothing better than that sort of feeling in fishing. If you can achieve what you want to achieve and continue having good catches is really the reward in it. I guess the changes that I saw that I thought I should take it or try and do something about it. I mean, it was very sort of frustrating that we'd come in with a large catch of lobsters and they'd be the wrong colour or the wrong size for the market. Predominantly in those days, as it was Chinese dominated, sort of like it is now, I suppose. They were looking particularly for the smaller lobsters around the kilo, and anything up to about 1.5, 2 kilos maybe. But it was more distinctive the market than what it is now, and the larger lobsters in the catch were particularly a problem. If we had a large volume of large lobsters, the fish buyers just wouldn't take them. So I looked at that and thought, well, you must be able to do something about that. So, and it was, I think it was 1999, 2000. We looked at some research and we did a bit of a business course, my wife and myself, Debbie, and decided to go and get a grant, a Oz industry grant, as it turned out, to look at in processing some product out of these larger lobsters for the marketplace, because they were quite cheap. Even compared to now, they were sort of $20 to $30 a kilo, the larger lobsters. And what could we do with it? So we took a year or so and did some, with Centre of Technology in Queensland helped us actually. We came up with the lobster medallions, the sashimi tail, and an lobster oil recipe, which was actually the lobster oil recipe came out of a chef in Adelaide. But putting all this together meant that we had a project that we could run out across the marketplace and sort of commercialised That took a while to pull together, and finding markets for these products. Where would we go? And we initially, well, sure, off the bat, really thought of Europe. And we weren't sort of thinking of China. We sort of thought of more of a sophisticated marketplace, and started visiting the Brussels Seafood Show in 2003, which, to my mind, or our mind, was sort of the biggest show in the world and probably the most sophisticated, and you could learn a little bit as well about what everyone else was doing and where the innovation was going in the seafood industry. And, of course, I remember, John, you being there as well at different times, looking at the same things, I suppose, and visiting the UK and visiting a whole lot of different stores and trying to get ideas and insights of where we would go. And basically were lucky enough to win awards in 2004, which was the top awards at the Brussels Seafood Show, and it automatically opened the marketplace in the south of France, and some really good restaurants, Alain de Case and Joel Rubichon, these type of people that wanted quality product. And we did quite well, really, as I think back, fairly quickly with that product, and still focused on Europe and sort of visited Europe a number of times up until about 2011, I suppose it was. And somewhere in that time, we had a global financial crisis, 2008, and we were already, I guess, visiting the marketplace in China with a live lobster component of our catch. But about that time, it just it changed, really. It just all started going to China, and it has been sort of ever since until the last few years.
Fed by the nutrient-rich waters uprising from Antarctica, southern rock lobster is a slow-growing, selective feeder. It's harvested using one of the most advanced and innovative sustainable wild fishing programs in the world, with most of the catch exported live, mostly to North Asia, in particular to China, where it's highly regarded as a premium shellfish. More recently, it has been directed back into the domestic Australian markets and to other exports in Europe and North America.
Yeah, so southern rock lobster is a very unique lobster in the world. It's for those who love lobster, and the Chinese seem to be the biggest consumers of it. They have a real liking for the red lobster, our lobster, southern rock lobster, and I guess that in part is because it was one of the very first lobsters to be exported worldwide into China. And the transition happened in about 1988-89 when we switched from the American tail market to the live market in Hong Kong, actually, and it all came about from a couple of innovative fishermen at Robe and maybe Von Stanky's at Carpenter's Rock. Some of these earlier factories that were innovative and looked at sending lobsters live into Hong Kong, and it just took off. It took off overnight, and then there was lobsters going in through Shenzhen and into China, and the price went from $10 a kilo pretty much overnight as well to $20 a kilo, which made the American tail market unviable. And the likes of Safcol, who were big players in those days, they just went out of business. They stopped dealing in lobsters. It switched, and that happened pretty quickly. Like I said, over a year, quite remarkable. And that, I think, has been part of the branding that we just take for granted now. That China was the first live market that we had, but it's been there for so long. And if you look at the Canadian lobster and even the WA species, WA species has been there nowhere as long as southern rock lobster, but China's insatiable appetite for lobster has sort of brought in all these other species from the world now. And, there's obviously, spiny lobster from other parts of the world, from Cuban lobsters all over the place, just with different seasonal alignment, and of course New Zealand, the southern rock lobster as well. So they do have this liking for it, and because I think one of the reasons they like our product the best because the taste, colour, and it's been in the market for a long time. It's a known product. Why is southern rock lobster the best lobster in the world? Well, it's the flavour. Having tasted, like you have, John, as well, all these other lobsters, it is definitely a unique flavour. It's a great characteristics of its flavour. I note that we do have saltier water in Australia and around this region. We're running it a lot saltier, 36 ppk, which is a lot saltier than you'd find in the northern hemisphere where there's freshwater runoff. So maybe that's got something to do with it. But I'm really guessing to say why does it taste better. It's very hardy too, as far as living out of the water. If it's treated properly, and it's not always, if it's kept cool and it goes through the supply chain in the appropriate manner, it can live out of water for. I mean, we've just sent lobsters to France. Actually, only recently, a couple of days ago, more going, and that's over 40 hours. But if the supply chain is looked after and adhered to, it is a very hardy product.
The Fergusons have been at the forefront of both product and market development, identifying the need to extract more value and utilisation of their lobsters. They embarked on the development of a range of innovative products well before many in the industry even started to consider anything but live or cooked. Using their extensive network of local fishers, Ferguson's then set about developing a broader range of uniquely South Australian seafoods for retail and food service distribution.
Yeah, well, it's sort of easy to get caught up in the commodity trade of live lobsters into China because it is consuming. It consumes your time, and certainly. But there are a lot of issues with that, and really getting the perishable product to that marketplace is always a challenge. I guess one of the things I learnt early, and why we sort of have gone down the track of value adding, was in the early days I had a fish shop in Victor Harbour with a fisherman friend of mine. We set up, and I learnt very quickly there's two components to wet fish counters: is the waste and the smell, and the bacteria that sort of go very quickly into all sorts of places you don't expect, and then the smell creates a smell. So really, once the fillets are sitting in the ice, you've only got a few days. So that was a lesson learned from myself, really, of which way we go in the future. I suppose with high foot traffic and a lot of in a dense population, you can serve fresh fish, but some of the locations they want a variety of fish and not have an offer, and I think that's where we've sort of targeted that sort of opportunity. And looking at the species we do now, we've gone down and looked at the lesser known species, which are a bit cheaper. But once again, the challenge of that is educating people's taste buds to something different, and to my mind, it's all good quality product. The local market seems to be aligned with the likes of King George whiting, flathead, garfish and snapper, but you start to get thin on the ground with people's understanding of course, salmon and the aquaculture species. But that is one of the challenges for us now is getting recognition from the consumer for all the species. Of course, the price is a bit cheaper, but it's fish is on, and John, I would imagine you've had the same challenges in your years too. But it's where we're at the moment.
Catching lobsters requires skill, commitment, and time. Being able to develop a range of value-added products similarly requires a commitment of time, energy, and resources. Building markets for new seafood products is an equally tiring task, which further demands commitment and time. Doing all three activities, and in particular building markets that don't know where the seafood comes from, let alone the species, is a huge challenge.
We seem to have done very well in South Australia with the product into all the independents and breaking into Victoria and New South Wales. Export, look, it is a hard yard. It is hard to say. We've got success in a couple of places, but gee, it's taken a little while. And you get questions like, "Can you get me Dover sole?" or something like that, where the species are we just don't have English species, and so it is difficult. It's not as easy as you think. I think the American market's probably the probably is going the best for us in a few stores we've got there. But then it's sort of particularly good with likes of scallops and kingfish. But not all the ranges. Redfish, bite redfish, yes, that's going okay. But you start getting away into boarfish is known as well. So there are similarities with some of the species, but not the likes of nitrile. Ocean jackets is one that we're really keen to push because there's a good volume of that product, and to my mind, it's a great eating species. So yes, you're right. It is challenging outside the marketplace that don't know the species for sure.
The China market has been hugely attractive to many in the rock lobster fishing industry. High prices, a single customer, and seemingly an insatiable appetite for their fish. But as China opened up to the global supply of seafood, the market became more competitive, and the demand for certain grades and seasons changed. Further, the onset of COVID and the closing of the China borders has meant that the fishermen have had to seek markets elsewhere. It's become an imperative for Ferguson's to pivot to other markets and other sectors away from exclusively the food service sector in China.
I'll be disappointed if we go back to China 100%. We need to really think about the Western market. The Western market doesn't necessarily want live lobster, the theatre of that in tanks and the difficulties in dealing with it in the short amount of time you've got to order, and specifically the Western market, to my mind, is looking for a high quality product at a reasonable value, but really designed around the needs of whatever they're using it for, and that's our job to work that out. I mean, we're finding a lot of wineries and everyone people that want good quality product on the menu, serve it simply, but be able to take it out of the freezer at their leisure, but know that it's going to be consistent in the quality. They're the things that we're thinking about. And as for the market at the moment with the cheaper, look, I think that we all should be talking about Australian product, and if we've got to sacrifice, which we have over the last couple of years of the consumer wins out of that. But getting Australians to eat more seafood, really, and Australian seafood is really the key for us, because I think the discerning market in Australia does recognise the quality, but it's been a long time coming just to get to this position.
Business challenges can be debilitating. Maintaining a positive outlook can be difficult at times. Within the southern rock lobster industry, there are many sad tales. Andrew Ferguson is, in the face of challenge and COVID and the Chinese trade sanctions, pivoted to a new business model, new markets and new opportunities, seemingly without missing a step.
I'm excited when we do see the trends now changing a little bit. I think what we've done the last 3 years is, Roger Drake Supermarkets in South Australia, use them as an example, I suppose. I said, look, we've got this problem of the China problem with our lobsters. Is it worth a go? You're selling some cooked lobsters in his supermarket. I said, and I talked to his buying people. And I said, Andrew, we've never sold any more than 50 kilos of cooked lobsters in our shops the whole day long. I said, but we'll have, and Roger Drake said, we'll give it a go, give us a price, we'll have a look at it. And they were tentatively looking to order some, and they were talking about 2 or 3 tonne for Christmas, and this is a couple of years ago now. And I put the orders in, and they were absolutely, they did so well, they had to order more, and we were cooking right up night and day up until Christmas. I think they ended up doing 16 tonne. And that really has turned things around for them. So here we are at Christmas again in the same situation. They definitely got to have lobsters in their supermarkets, which they would never have had before. But it's opened up another category for them. But not only that, they've got people coming into their stores for lobsters, but buying other things, so they can see the benefits. So some of it shifting, not only is fishmongers now, it's into the supermarket. So that sort of opens up an opportunity for us as well. So that's something that on the good side, I'd say, that's happened out of this China situation. I mean, the amount of people that talk to me, we haven't had lobsters for years, and great, we were able to have lobster for Christmas. Of course, prices had a bit to do with it to get the reactivation. But if you look back at the other proteins, on the supermarket shelf, like Wagyu and those which are selling in these supermarkets, there's not a great deal of price difference. So, it has reactivated, like you said, but it's possibly, certainly opened up a new category that supermarkets did, and also the fish counters are changing with our value-added other products that also offer other products other than salmon and barramundi.
Diversifying out of reliance on a single product can be a long, hard road, with many years spent securing supply of seafood, developing the processing, packaging and distribution. Often this work can lead to naught. And building a range doesn't necessarily result in success. There is an equal need to build markets, a lot of time on the road.
I'm excited for the future because it's just a matter now with the products we've got in the amount of SKUs we've got. I think it's about 20 SKUs. The issues for us now are rolling it out, marketing, and we haven't been able to travel for 2 years, up until the last 6 months or so. Now we don't have to worry about innovating any more products for the time being. It's just the marketing, and that's as we build through Metcash and like across Australia. I'm reasonably excited not to be self-reliant on live lobsters. That's been been hard yards at times. The diversity really is important in this business, so that we've got more strings to our bow than just completely being reliant on live lobsters, and building the retail brands and up until with more stability in the business is really the key.
Fishermen are by nature good on the chat. Their ability to converse with fellow fishermen, their crew and their customers is legendary. For many fishermen, it's their first love.
I still enjoy talking to the fishermen. Even when I wasn't fishing, I used to ring the guys on the boats every day and just see how they were catching. But I still really enjoy that. I like the fact that Kate, it's really just Kate myself, and Kate's my daughter. She's doing most of the day-to-day running of the business. The girls we've got some good staff, and really they're doing a great job, and they're not reliant on me. I feel that I've backed off a fair bit, and I can sort of take more enjoyment of the day-to-day running of the business, and seeing the rewards and happy customers, and those sort of things are the reasons I get out of bed.
The Australian Southern Rock lobster underscores what is by any standard a highly successful fishery. It is in fact a fantastic good news story based on a sustainable and renewable resource. Ferguson's are a standout South Australian seafood operation, forever innovating, forever building new markets, and always with an eye for development. Andrew Ferguson continues to lead the business with commitment and enthusiasm, a great Australian seafood ambassador. This is Fishtales, a seafood podcast. A Deep in the Weeds production. I'm John Susman. Follow us on Instagram at Fishtales Seafood Podcast, or email us at fishtalespodcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay tuned for more tales from beneath the surface of the seafood world every Friday on your podcast app.